Hello everybody, it's been quite a while since I've done one of these, isn't it? Well, I'm sure you know the reasons because I went over those in the final moments of vlog number 100, so this is 101. It's also kind of like a substitute for what I usually do every December, which is a top 5 best and worst games of the year. I didn't have the drive or the time or motivation to do one this year. Also, I put together a pseudo list and then I'd short list, I was going to say, that's not the right word. You know, I'd go through, make a list of stuff I played this year that I liked and that I didn't like, and then shortlist was what I was looking for, and then I'd shortlist them until I eventually had 5 and 5. Problem, I didn't have 5 things I played this year that I hated, and some of the list I did come up with break the rules that I usually go by, which include no DLC and that kind of stuff. So I thought instead of trying to put together, throw together a list video for the end of the year, I'll just cover it here. I also want to do Patron shoutouts for December because, people who are willing to support me at this time of year especially are people who deserve praise. So I'll do that, and then I'll just go through the list I made. I had the wiki page open for games released this year. I looked for ones I'd played, and then I thought, did I enjoy that? Did I hate it? And then made the list. So we'll do that, but first of all, let me get the right window. I will be pale, by the way, because there's no YouTube window up here. Thank you to the following patrons who supported me in November, and I think most are also continuing to do it for December. Well, before I get started, I do plan at some point in January to go back to doing regular vlogs. It's just right now I don't want to, for the reasons I went into at the end of the last one, which I will not dwell on. So, thank you to the following people for their support last month. Apropos of Nothing, Carnares, Greg the Howler, Taya Blake, Coulson McDonald, Dragonakis, Nick, Terravolt, Good Rory, Nick Galodi, Michael Smith, Thaxton, Grant Doty, Soul Food, Jason and Nino, Thomas Telnovas, Amy Spain, Ryan Sadowski, Lenori, Casper MH, Terrell Smith, that one guy with his face, Yuki, and George Stevens. Thank you very much. And also, the exchange box at the end of my street, which connects to the main exchange for the village, is being worked on by BT as I speak. So I'm hoping that very, very soon I'll finally be able to live stream, and that means I will be able to offer a wider variety of Patreon related rewards. I hope. There is some milestones I added to Patreon recently, so if you ever want to see me doing a Pokemon game or Dark Souls 1, they are milestone tiers for me to reach on Patreon, so go check them out if you're interested. But anyway, yes, thank you to those people. Thank you very much. And I believe I had at least one business card to send out to someone this month, so don't worry, it's on its way, but keep in mind it's Christmas post times, so it might take a little while. But thank you very much. You help make me able to keep doing this, and since I love doing this, I'm very grateful. So, the main thing, well, I suppose there was comments on Vlog 100, but I did mention in it that I wasn't going to read them out. I'm going to get very pale for a second here. Where is my game list? Here it is. So how many things have I got here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. I had a short list, so to speak, of 10 games I really enjoyed this year, kind of, and I wanted to short them down to 5. And then for the bad game list, I have 4 things, and 2 of them, as I said, they don't really count for the rules I usually use when I do those list videos. But that said, let's not spend too much time dithering. So the good games, the first one I got in the list was back in January, at least January 27th, and it was Dying Light. I did a let's look at of it, but I actually also did a cooperative playthrough. I didn't post it on my channel because I think I didn't bother recording it because I had too much uploading at the time and my connection was bad. But if you go to Stormkiller's channel, Stormkiller72, is that the numbers you have after your name? I can't remember now. Yes, Stormkiller72, you will find the cooperative playthrough of Dying Light that we did. I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a George Romero-esque zombie stomping game where you could dropkick zombies. It was Dead Island done better than Dead Island. So I enjoyed that thoroughly. It's good as a solo experience, but I think it was better because I played it co-op, in my opinion. The next game on the list of stuff I enjoyed this year is probably an exceptionally obvious one. Released on February 13th or thereabouts, Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate. I put like 400 hours in. I played it as a, not daily, but almost daily series for a year. And I still would go back and play it. The only reason I'm not is because another game came out in the same series. It offers ridiculously good value for money, and it's thoroughly fun. I like fighting the monsters, and it has so much content, and I like that they made a bit of an effort with a story for 4. You can also pick it up dirt cheap. It's in numerous sales So if you have a 3DS, there is no excuse for not playing it. It's probably one of the best non-Nintendo games on it. Next is March 24th. I think this date is right. It doesn't... did it really release in March 24th? But this is also probably what my game of the year would be. In fact, it's probably a good country mile away from everything else in terms of enjoyment. And it's Bloodborne. It's probably the best thing I played this year, flat out. It was going to win hands down if I'd done the proper list video. It's a fantastic game. Great level design, great setting, great mood, great combat, fantastic weapons. The bosses are great. I like the music. There's really not much about it I hate. And I do think that I like it more so than I might have because I did it entirely offline. I haven't to date been able to play Bloodborne online. Granted, if you want a more Dark Souls-esque experience, you can play online and you can see player notes and stuff, but I think it's because it's got the horror vibe that Dark Souls doesn't. That's both what made it appeal more to me and the reason why I think it's better as a solo game. So either way, regardless of the other games I'm about to mention in this list, Bloodborne would have been my game of the year, hands down. No contest with anything else that I'm about to mention. No contest at all. So there you go, and I played through it for the channel 3 times, well, twice. The next release was, I think I might have this back to front actually, I'm not sure. But the next release I've got down here was in April 7th, and that was Dark Souls 2 Scholar of the First Sin. I liked having an excuse to go back through Dark Souls 2 because I still love that game. I also liked that it threw a little bit of surprise at us with the new enemy layouts and what have you, and the new pacing it decided to do by changing up the order you can do things. If you had played Dark Souls 2 originally, it doesn't add enough to warrant buying again, I would feel. Unless you could get it for a good price, I suppose. But yeah, I enjoyed it. It was just a nice excuse to go through a game that I liked. And I played it through with Rory. And we forgot to go kill the tigers and the snow reindeer bit and nobody noticed. The next release, also let me take a drink, because I have a cold, as per usual, was May 19th, and it was The Witcher 3. I still haven't finished The Witcher 3, but I played like 90% of it. And then I always drift at the end of a game because I don't want it to end, so I skip doing the ending. Stupid, but that's the way I've always been. Yeah, I really enjoyed The Witcher 3. It's better than The Witcher 2, which was already fantastic. It's just good high fantasy stuff with good combat and fun stuff. I like that it's a fantasy setting with like modern swearing. I like that. It's a little thing, but I like it. And I also like that the developers don't take no shit from the rest of the world trying to tell them how to make a game. So yeah, they get props for that as well. Witcher 3, Wild Hunt, very, very good game. Had some very creepy moments as well, and some genuinely tough choices, especially surrounding the Baron and his storyline, if you know what I mean. So the next one I was considering for putting in the good list was released in September, and it was The Phantom Pain, Metal Gear Solid 5. There's a lot about that game that I absolutely despise, mostly everything that Hideo Kojima had to do with it, but the one thing that The Phantom Pain did right was the one thing that really mattered. Its gameplay was fantastic. The gameplay was so good, the fact I got pissed off by basically everything else in it didn't matter, because I just enjoyed playing it so much. I could ignore the crappy story, the bad acting, the lack of acting, the lack of voice for Snake, the crappy twist, the fact that it very clearly isn't finished, the horrible microtransactions, the online stuff that's pointless. It didn't matter, because just playing the game was fun. So the bit that they needed to get right, they got right, despite all the background politics between Kojima and Konami as well, which is not all Konami's fault, by the way. Hideo Kojima definitely seems like someone who would be a pain in the arse to manage, especially because of his ego, which people keep on encouraging to grow bigger. But yeah, the game itself, if you're just after good gameplay and you're not bothered about a story that makes no sense and characters who you will hate, and a really poor performance from Keith Sutherland, yeah, I would have considered putting in the list. Would it have made the top 5? Probably not. No, probably not. Also, the next game probably wouldn't have made the cut either. October 6th, Transformers Devastation. That's in the list purely because I enjoyed it from a nostalgia point of view. It reminded me of how much I loved the 80s Transformers cartoon when I was a kid, and I thoroughly enjoyed it as a result. It was way too short though, didn't have enough content, and I'm glad they haven't tried to drown it in DLC. I worry it didn't do well enough that we'll ever see anything else from Platinum Games in terms of the Transformers license. They do tend to do these random projects and then just forget about them. But yeah, I enjoyed it. That's purely a me thing though, and do remember these lists are always meant to be stuff from my personal point of view. It's not me trying to gauge the game industry as a whole being unbiased. No, this isn't an entirely biased list of stuff I like or hate that I played this year. Next, November 10th, Fallout 4. I'm still playing it through, but I've been playing it, for like 4 hours a week for a month now, and I still love it. Still discovering new stuff to do. It's content rich. They did screw some stuff up. The Mass Effect-esque conversations in dialogue is awful. I hate that your protagonist talks now, and you don't have the freedom that you did in New Vegas. And I think that's a justifiable reason why people will have a problem with Fallout 4 compared to New Vegas. New Vegas let you almost be literally Satan if you wanted in almost every situation. In Fallout 4, you're given the constant illusion of choice to the degree where it becomes so painfully obvious that it's just an illusion of choice that it gets greying. Your choices might as well always just say yes. Or the conversations might as well just be cutscenes because you don't really have any decision to make here. Yeah, sometimes you can try and get a bit more information or get a bit more money out of them for reward. You're forced along a path, and that's definitely the only fault I can find with it. The combat is much better, graphics obviously much better. I like the characters better that you meet. And yeah, I like every other aspect apart from that one little thing. It's very clearly well made. It's just a shame they went in a bit of a bad direction for that one thing. Story-wise, I would say it's more interesting than New Vegas as well, although I've heard people think the opposite. But next on my list of potential candidates is a latecomer, November 29th, Monster Hunter Cross. Another Monster Hunter game. I love these games, and Cross is definitely one of the better ones. It's a shame that this particular version may not ever see a Western release in any form. I don't know. I hope it does though, because I would love for other people to play it. The final latecomer, which is also another reason why I had to keep on putting off this list because so many games were releasing late November, early December. I'm not sure if it warrants being in the good list. I'm still torn about it, but I was considering Xenoblade Chronicles X. I've been playing it for about 20 hours at this point. I find it has the same problems as Xenoblade Chronicles, and that's that it gives you so many MMO-esque crap to do with so little guidance that if you're a little bit OCD about it, you'll get really bogged down in it, and as a result get bored. And I'm already kind of bored. It gates the story quests behind you doing certain things, I guess to make sure that you're strong enough level to tackle the story quests, but it's tedious crap, and for most of the side quests it doesn't give you quest markers, and that's really frustrating. Also, it spends way too long tutorializing basic stupid stuff and not nearly enough time tutorializing stuff that's unique to that game and then really needs good explanation, so it almost forces you to have to read this stupid software manual that it comes with. The gameplay's good though. The gameplay's good for a Wii U game. It looks very good. As a result of them making sure that there's no pop-in for the scenery at a distance, which is very impressive for being on the Wii U, they've sacrificed monster pop-in. So annoyingly, very often you'll just be running along and it will decide to spawn a level 91 gigantic creature next to you and it will just one-shot you. And that's a failing of the console it's on. It would have done far better on a better console or PC. It would have been truly impressive from a visual point of view. But it's acceptable, and for a Wii U game it's pretty. It has mechs in it, but I'm not quite at the mech stuff yet, which is another piss off, to be honest. But yeah, there's not much else you can play in the Wii U that's good, unless you don't mind playing the same Zelda and Mario games over and over and over and over as they release them every year. So yeah, if you have a Wii U, I would recommend it, even if I end up not quite liking it or drifting away from it because I get bored. What I've played of it so far, it kind of justified the cost I spent on it. It wouldn't have made the cut for the top 5 things I played this year, that's for sure. But yeah, Bloodborne was definitely my game of the year. It was outstanding. It's a shame it's only on PS4, but so be it. At least Dark Souls 3, if it turns out to be good, is multi-platform. So the bad game list. I had 4 things on it, as I said. 2 of them wouldn't count if I used the same rules I usually do, but the 2 that would have counted. Batman Arkham Knight, June 16th. I really enjoyed playing it through, and I didn't suffer from any of the problems that most people suffered from, so I definitely consider myself lucky. That said, the way Warner Brothers acted, or the developers they got to handle the PC port, is shocking, and definitely should not be praised in any way. Also, they arsed up the one new thing they added in Arkham Knight, and that's on Rocksteady. That's not on Warner Brothers, that's not on the company that handled the PC port, that's on them being really bad designers. And that's the Batmobile stuff. The Batmobile is bad. It's not fun to use when you can just glide around the city as Batman. That's preferable to using the Batmobile. The Batmobile has too much focus in Arkham Knight. You have to be willing to put up with it. It forces you to use it. The Riddler stuff in Arkham Knight is races. They really shat the bed on the Batmobile. They thought it was going to be this big thing, and it's just annoying. So that's why it would have made it onto the list, just because it forces you. The story forces you. Even if you ignore the side quest stuff, the story forces you to use the Batmobile way too much, and it's annoying. The game itself was fantastic. It was probably the best example of the Joker-Batman relationship done in a strange way, giving you an insight into both characters. It had a reasonably satisfying ending for being a final game, although I'm sure Warner Brothers will still shit out some more Arkham games. But I mean, in terms of Rocksteady's hands, it was a good way for them to finish their little trilogy. And yes, it's a trilogy. We don't talk about origins. But yeah, that would have potentially made it onto my worst list, partly because I was struggling to find anything I had any problems with, but also that Batmobile stuff I just didn't like. Next was released in August 25th, Shadowrun Hong Kong. I like the Shadowrun games done by Harebrained Schemes. I like the Shadowrun Returns, and I also like Dragonfall. It was called Dragonfall, right? I'm going to have to double check that because it'll bug me if I keep on saying the wrong thing here. But Hong Kong I was looking forward to it, and unfortunately I was very disappointed by it because the characters aren't as fun as in Dragonfall. The story is boring by comparison. It was Dragonfall. Yeah, I played the director's cut of Dragonfall, if that matters at all. And beat for beat, it seemed to be following the exact same progression as Dragonfall does, right down to the same twists. Like we're supposed to be surprised when we just played a game prior to this one that follows the same story beats, except they're not as fun because, with the exception of a zombie samurai, all the characters in Hong Kong annoyed me. I just didn't like them. So I just didn't enjoy Shadowrun Hong Kong. I ended up just not playing it and deleting it because it bored me and I didn't like it. That's probably the least descriptive I've been about any game I'm talking about today. I just didn't like it. So that's why it was going to be on the list, and it would have been a strong contender. Not for the worst thing I played, just as a bad game I played. It didn't do anything so egregious that it would be number one, let's put it that way, although neither did Arkham Knight, to be honest. It would have been one of the other two, which, as I say, shouldn't be on the list, but October 30th, or November 1st, I can't remember now when it released. Binding of Isaac Afterbirth. Don't like it. You'll probably hear me moaning about it in recent runs. I like that they added a bunch of items, which increases the variety that can happen on a run. That's the one good thing Afterbirth did. Everything else has been a cavalcade of bullshit that's just terrible. They've arsed it up. Not just Nicholas, although they're definitely the worst for the way they treat their customers, but Ed as well. He doesn't understand what people like about his games, and it's abundantly clear with Afterbirth, and as a result it's pretty bad, and I would actually encourage you all not to buy it unless you are just desperate for more items. Hopefully when they release this expansion to the expansion, and they add full modding tools so people can just fully mod everything, the community will fix this crappy game, or crappy expansion. But for the meanwhile, Afterbirth is garbage, and I would definitely encourage you not to get it. I would also encourage you not to support anything that Nicholas releases because of the way they've treated the release of Afterbirth on the 3DS and such like. Rebirth on the 3DS and PS Vita. They're not supporting it. So yeah, they would probably be number one in the list. I'm most disappointed by Afterbirth, that's for damn sure. It's terrible. The last thing I have on the list was from November 27th, and it's the Old Hunters expansion for Bloodborne. It's really, really bad. With the exception of having some new pretty areas to explore and some interesting enemy design. No pacing, no balance, bad music. Well, no, that's not fair. One good music track, the rest is all drowned out by the bosses screaming at you constantly. Bad boss design, no story. Did I already say that? Short for the price. No balance with where you get access to it, or just no balance in general. I get that he probably did it, as Miyazaki, I mean, for people who are after an extra challenge, but it crosses too far into unfair, and he's got a lot of hangovers from Dark Souls in it that are just bad. He's very hit and miss with me, Miyazaki, and the Old Hunters was bad. Just didn't like it at all. If it wasn't number one of the things I hated most this year, it would definitely be number two. So that's it. That was the games I listed. Dying Light, Monster Hunter 4, Bloodborne, Dark Souls 2, Witcher 3, Metal Gear Solid 5, Transformers Devastation, Fallout 4, Monster Hunter Cross, Xenoblade Chronicles X, Batman Arkham Knight, Shadowrun Hong Kong, Binding of Isaac Afterbirth, and Bloodborne, The Old Hunters. So that is some games I enjoyed and didn't enjoy from this year. I'm not doing a proper list, as I said, so I hope that'll do. Maya disagrees. But that is going to do it. I hope you have a exciting, fun, whatever you're doing end of year, and I shall see you in 2016 for more regular vlogs once, you know, the stuff I was talking about last time gets sorted. Until then, thanks very much for listening. Let me know what your favourite and worst games of the year have been as well in the comments. I'm always interested to hear that, and I'll see you sometime. Until then, ta-ta for now.